The number 12 team in the country is within 30 days from now could look completely different. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master Football back at it again. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things college football, pro football, Madden, EA college football, NFL draft, anything related to American football, hit that red subscribe button. You'll not be disappointed. Also hit the like button too. And if you're on X or Twitter, follow as well. That fame is growing. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, again. Joel Klatt and Colin Cowherd said earlier this year, if there was a stock of sports, you need to buy college football right now because we are heading into a golden age. I know people say, oh, transfer portal this, NIL that, conference realignment this, whatever it is. There's lots of things right there that could be negative, but so far, what we've been seeing on the field, and especially because of the interest in coaches, Deion Sanders, that team is almost going to be bowl ineligible, but they are one of the most interesting teams in college football to watch. I'm telling you, things are headed for a great situation for the sport. But there's one team that I'm a little bit upset about, and I actually think that they have an opportunity here to enact an emotional victory. And again, it will not be a victory on the field. It will be an emotional victory because in many ways, this would actually hurt the team. First, we need to talk about right now the big game on Saturday between Washington and Utah and the crazy drop thing. Utah did it to themselves against Oregon a couple years ago. Now it happens against Utah. Whatever it is, let's get into that story right now. Washington and Utah. Here we are on ESPN.com. Washington survives after goal line gaffe, moves to 10-0. When number 18 Utah's potential game-tying drive fell well short in the final minute of the number 5 Washington's 25-28 win, perhaps no one exhaled deeper than Huskies linebacker Alfonso Tuputala. It was Tuputala's interception that killed a promising Utah drive near the end of the third quarter. But when he celebrated a yard and a half prematurely, and I'm not kidding you when I say this, it literally bounced and stopped. Fumbling the ball on what would have been a pick six, fumbling to turn the ball over following a 76-yard return, it set up the possibility for a nightmare. The Huskies still led 33-28, but if Utah came back to win, the mental gaffe would have registered an unfortunate place in program history. Instead, Washington's defense responded with a safety, and on the next play, it kept Utah scoreless for the rest of the way. Disaster avoided. And you see Kalen DeBoer, he's defending his guy. It was big for them. Washington gets to 10-0, and they're in a good spot for right now. And looking at conference play right now, it's basically just Washington and Oregon, with the only loss between those two coming between those two. We see my boys. Look at my boy Jed Fish out there at Arizona, 5-2, still in it technically, and Oregon State is ultimately fourth place right now at 5-2. I want to talk about Oregon State because the number 12 team in the country, that's so crazy that it is. The number 12 team in the country is within 30 days from now could look completely different. So right now, if you check out the schedule, and again, they win against San Jose State right there at the beginning of the season. They lost at Washington State in a back-and-forth game, a 3-point loss at Washington State, a 3-point loss at Arizona. Otherwise, they are playing absolutely fantastic. Look at the end of the schedule. Home against number 5 Washington and at number 6 Oregon. For all you realignment guys that know this, they won't know that it's of all the teams to the left, okay? Let me see if I can do it off the top of my head here, okay? So we got Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. They are all heading over to the Big Ten. We've got Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. They're heading over to the Big 12. We have Cal and Stanford going to the ACC. I repeat that. That's the goofiest one of all. And then the last two remaining teams of the Pac-12, Oregon State and Washington State, left without a home. As a matter of fact, it's so crazy that if you look at 247 Sports recruiting rankings for Pac-12 of 2024, there's literally just two teams. It's a weird situation. Everybody in college football who knows college football, again, the people who are front runners, they don't care. The people who really care about the sport realize the disservice that two of these high-quality programs have been having to go through. And again, we see it with Washington State. Jake Dicker basically came out and said, Oregon State's got a big leg up on us in NIL, and between us and USC, it isn't even close. The fact that we can even remotely compete with these guys is a miracle. You see the fact that both of those teams are being left behind, and Oregon State, I know Washington State, they've lost a couple games here. They're threatening of not making a bowl game. There's a couple things like that you kind of have to worry about. Oregon State, number 12 team in the country. That's wild to say it. In potentially their last automatic conference qualifying year. I know that's not going to change next year because it's going to be the top 5 highest rated teams regardless of conference. But you see the fact that Oregon State is being left out. It really hurts your head. But they have an opportunity for a moral victory here. Because like I said before, you see host number 5, Washington, play at number 6, Oregon in the next 2 weeks. Would it not be poetic justice for them to add an additional loss to one of those two teams, preventing the Pac-12 from getting to the CFP? I'm not saying it would be good for the school. Matter of fact, it would be bad for the school for a couple reasons. But man, your heart would feel better about Oregon State and one last opportunity for revenge. The first thing you got to see here is front page of NCAAF, the front page right here. Guess who's rumored as the head coach replacement for fired Jimbo Fisher? I already got it. Doug Landing out there. So we'll see what's that. We'll see if his eye is a little bit different. Maybe he has to take a quick trip down to College Station before their game. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I do know that, again, there's some chatter there. Remember, Oregon is going to be a Big Ten team, but SEC money, we'll see what if somebody throws $120 million at you over 10 years, you're at least going to listen. And remember here, this was just on October 25th. Oregon State and Washington State asked court to strip departing Pac-12 schools of board seats. We see the fact that there's this big argument over the remaining assets, because what happens here is when the college football conference gets assets in terms of you get an appearance in the CFP, they don't just give you the money right away. They give you installments over time. So those schools who are leaving after this year still technically want access to those assets, whereas Oregon State and Washington State are like, dude, you guys voted to leave. How dare you keep your assets with you? They're our assets. Whatever the battle is, I'm not about to get into the legal ramifications of it, but I do know that they already have that battle off the field in addition to on the field. And one thing you need to remember here, this is the sadder part about it. And again, you see the fact that, remember here, technically if Oregon State beats Washington or Oregon in the next 2 weeks, one of them, and the Pac-12, because of Oregon State at the end of the day, is held out of the CFP, it would hurt them because of those assets, because those assets would only go to Oregon State over that course of time. But again, we're not talking about that. We're talking about moral victories here. And a big fact of the moral victory here is you have to remember that Oregon State is in a really tough spot here. Currently, their 2024 recruiting rankings are below USF and above Baylor. Now, they're around a couple other teams. We've got Colorado down here. We've got Oklahoma State. We got Washington State, Arizona State. So they're right around where they're supposed to be. But there's a couple things that are happening here, especially with the transfer portal windows. These next 30 to 45 days are going to be huge for Oregon State football because, like I said, December 1st versus November 30th, we could see two completely different teams for many different reasons. The first one here is talking about the transfer portal windows. Now, for college football, there's two. FBS football has two over here. We have football FBS Monday, December 4th to Tuesday, January 2nd. That doesn't mean somebody can't elect to enter beforehand, but usually what it is that they have to formally process the paperwork by December 4th, and then it has to be formally processed to the next place by January 2nd of 2024. So that's the window there. So again, for Oregon State, you're thinking about the spot that they're in right now, okay? They don't really have a conference. You're not really sure. A bunch of guys who are at the number 12 team in the country level are ultimately like, well, yeah, but now we're going to be competing in like a scheduling agreement with the Mountain West. That's a big slap in the face to a team that's better than 120 other teams. Remember, there are 121 teams that are worse than Oregon State right now, and they might be in a situation where they're going to get plundered in the transfer portal. There's that one, and then there's addition to them, there's one here after the spring football, April 16th to April 30th. I say that to say that there's one name that I'm extremely interested in them keeping, and it's Aiden Childs. So if you don't know who Aiden Childs is, in the class of 2023, just this last one, a freshman year, number 58 overall player in the country, number 7 quarterback, and number 7 player in the state of California, 4-star player, almost a 5-star. He is the interesting one because he originally committed to Oregon State, believes in the program. He's a top 100 player. He's like, yo, dude, I'm ready for this to happen. However, next year he's going to be competing against a scheduling agreement, and maybe the year after that he's competing against Nevada, San Jose State, New Mexico, whatever that is. If they can keep him, it gives a lot of hope. But they're not the only thing that they have to keep worrying about the players. They also have to worry about keeping their head coach. So he's going to be rumored everywhere. Jonathan Smith, Oregon State's head coach, went over there. Very, very solid. Runs a really good physical program. I love what he does. Michigan State's a rumor. I guarantee you he's going to be rumored to a lot of other programs too. There's potential that, maybe Baylor doesn't bring back Dave Aranda. Whatever it is, there's lots of rumors out there around Jonathan Smith and this Oregon State team. I don't know what's going to happen in Oregon State. I do know Washington and Oregon these next 2 weeks, probably going to be held out of the Pac-12 Conference Championship, but they've got an opportunity for a moral victory. There's the fight over the remaining assets between them and Washington State and the rest of the teams that are leaving. There's the fact that this team could be absolutely plundered in the transfer portal. Jonathan Smith, the head coach, could leave. There's lots of opportunities for sadness in the Oregon State's future, and I hate to say that. I'm not happy about this, but I do know it would give them such a big moral victory. Washington and Oregon adding a couple losses to those teams down the stretch. The last year for the Pac-12 for those teams, it would be poetic justice. All right, guys, get in the comments right now. I'm not happy about this for Oregon State. I'm really worried about the program, where it's headed, what's going to happen. How many people are going to stay? Aiden Childs is the big one. If they can keep Aiden Childs, they've got hope for the future. But you guys let me know what you guys think. Get in the comments. And also, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and all that. I'll see you guys later. I am out.